Welcome to another chiller video for this week. We are going to cover the non-linear animation editor and how you can animate appropriately so you will not crash your keyframes or go into crazy mode accidentally. If you're an animator coming from another package, we'll demystify some of the things for you, so the only things that you will break down will be your animation keys into proper animation. The NLA can help you in many different things, for example a walk cycle, so you can animate on top of it while the clip plays along the timeline. You also have modifiers that can enhance your animation channel keys. We'll cover this NLA case study for animation using camera sequences, particles, important animated models into scene, creating passes all the way to the compositing stage. You'll be glad you clicked this video and that you've subscribed to the channel, because this content will guide you on how to properly extract and render passes from Blender to After Effects. My name is Pierre Schiller. I'm a 3D animator and VFX compositor. I'm also a Blender Foundation certified trainer, and I want to welcome you to this free case study in Blender 279. Let's get started. The NLA editor is one of the 17 main interaction modes located in the lower menu bar. The second most important thing you should know if you're using Blender 279 is that you can only select your NLA clips using right select. If you're a left-click user, switch temporarily to right-click select from user preferences, and later set it back to left-click. Last and most important, to play animation clips on the NLA, you have to select None. If you are working with one clip select, none of the other channels will play back. Only the current selected with the star icon will play back. Notice the star in yellow. That's the icon to identify a clip that has been selected. For example, the running track. If you star a clip, only that selected clip will play on the NLA. Notice the speaker with muted sound. That means the clip is selected and active but will not play back on the NLA timeline. Click on the speaker to unmute the track so it will play on the NLA. On the right side image, notice how none of the NLA clips has a yellow star. Stars are gray. There are no selected NLA clips. At the top, you see the right name Rig Action 001. This is keyframe animation coming from the graph editor in the timeline. Notice both speakers icons are mute. When NLA tracks are mute, only graph editor keyframes highlighted at the top will play back. On the left side image, notice the pink dashed circle and the dashed square. If you click in this zone, you will start select the NLA clip whenever your mouse is hovering. There are three different click actions in this zone. First time click, it's select current NLA track. Second time click, it's rename the selected NLA clip. Third time click, it's unselect all NLA clips. On the right side image, notice the blue dash circle and the blue sky color section. This is where you want to click to unselect all NLA clips at first try. Notice how rigname.rigaction.001 doesn't have a star but the dope sheet icon. It is because the graph editor and the dope sheet are keyframe action animation editors. We know there's a keyframe animation because there are yellow little circles to the right on the top track. Notice that instead of a star, the top NLA track is always keyframe animation, represented by the dope sheet icon. The graph editor and the dope sheet editor data are represented in the NLA in this way. The dope sheet has a sub-menu interaction mode called the action editor. Rigname.rigaction.001 is the name of the current keyframe data block action in the action editor. And you can create new actions pushing this plus button here. So keyframe data block has been assigned to a new action using that plus button. Name it accordingly, and this is the name that will identify keyframe animation in the top track of the NLA editor. Now that we know the action data, keyframe animation comes from the dope sheet in the submenu interaction mode action editor, Let's go back to the NLA editor and convert the keyframe animation to an NLA clip. So if you need to switch the top NLA track to a different action, just change it in the dope sheet and changes will reflect on the NLA top track. When the keyframe animation action is selected on the dope sheet, it will appear in the top NLA track as dope sheet action. Keyframe data block with the corresponding icon. Just click the push button on the NLA track to the right side. This will convert it into an NLA clip. You can now add behaviors like cycling, speed, playback, noise, etc. Select each clip on the NLA timeline, press N to see the properties of the NLA clip. On the animation blending property, choose please add. This is important for all the tracks to add up their animated keyframe influences or weights. Hover the NLA timeline and press Shift A. This will add any previous keyframe animation in the action editor directly as an NLA clip in the NLA timeline. To edit an NLA clip, select it. Use the right click, select from user preferences, and then press Tab on the NLA timeline. Switch to a dope sheet view on a second window layout to see the keyframes. You may find all the keyframes messed up like this. You need to filter them by clicking on this little arrow that you see right here. By pushing this little arrow, you are going to filter only the selected elements onto the dope sheet or the graph editor. And it's gonna do the same thing, filtering the selected elements on the NLA as well. This is very important reason why you want the NLA clips, to add and mix your pre-recorded animation and create actions like a video editor. You can even blend in transitions. This one is showing a 5-frame transition between one clip and the other one. So I have a little assignment for you. With all this, you should be able to recognize what's going on into this screen. Now as you can see, we have a dope sheet up there, and down on the left side it's the NLA track. But what is all of this? You now know how to filter, you now know how to select a new action and where the keyframe action is coming from to enter into the NLA. Fantastic! Now we're going to go into a project, a real case study, creating a walk cycle using the NLA. Mixing the NLA clips with a keyframe animation, and then add particle simulations, then create render passes using overrides, then isolate elements by using layers and override passes, create a render sequence using a compositor to output a layer EXR files with correct pass names, and finally composing it all in After Effects. And the most challenge is this last part where we are going to have fun into this project. Alright, so let's start. And from here on, this is unscripted, so let's see how it goes. We have this character that has a walking cycle loop. And as you can see there, I have a dope sheet that is showing me what the keyframes on the different elements of this character are. I'm playing them back. And now I'm going to enter the action for this character. And I'm going to name the action here on the action editor, just like we saw previously. Now we're going to make use of this little button right here called push down. And what it's going to do, it's going to send this keyframe animation from the dope sheet or the action sheet into the NLA compositor, or rather the NLA editor. That's the real name. And let's filter the elements, don't forget, by clicking the little arrow. So we're working with the selected clips, and those are shown only. So now this is important that you need to select an NLA clip and use the user preferences so that you can select it with right click. After you're done, switch it back to left click if you're a left click user. Now notice this has a mute icon. This is why the NLA clip is not playing back on the timeline. Now I'm going to add a new action, which was our previous walk cycle, just like we saw. And in this case, this NLA track, the third one from the top, will add my animation directly. You can also select by box selecting the clip. Now the most important thing is this part right here. We should change the action replace because that will destroy our animation into add. So that way all of the clips will add their animation channels. And that means that if you animate a leg on one clip and then you animate the feet on the second clip's tracks, they are going to be added as if they both were moving into the timeline. Replace will totally annihilate whatever you did on the previous track. We'll remove it. So we're going to play back this animation and it finally is working like a charm. Now we can see the character walking. One thing you should notice also is that whenever you're working on the NLA, only the NLA and whatever it's got in there will play back. If you put something elsewhere, you will not see it play back. That, what you just saw, was a reference on how women with high heels walk. It is important that you always reference your characters, the movements, and their personalities, of course. Now I'm going to write a output temporary file for my captures. I click here and then I'm going to make a play blast, what you will commonly know as a play blast. Okay, so this captures my viewport directly so I can know what is working and what is not working on my character animation. So right now I'm going to forward a little bit faster this, so I'm creating the walk cycle for her, and I see something wrong because the legs and the feet are jumping from position A to position C. Is not very well broken down into keyframes, but that's going to change because I'm going to show you one nifty little trick that I like to use. If you press D on any viewport on Blender 279, you get the grease pencil, which in Blender 2.8 is the annotation tool, but in this case it's called the grease pencil. Still on 279, I'm going to create a new layer and then I'm going to draw directly on the screen on this left side viewport. I switch the color to red and now I'm going to draw the position of the feet and the leg because I want this exact same position for the right leg, which was jumping in my previous play blast. Something was not right there. And you can also go into Tools, Grease Pencils, select the eraser so you can erase what's not working for you, and you already see that here we have layers. So in these layers you just type the name, you know what you're talking about. Alright, so I have this position right here, so I need to position the right leg exactly where the left leg was, and also I have this other keyframe that I needed to correct, and once that was done, then my cycle was perfect. Now I'm going to push down my keyframe animation and I'm turning it into a NLA clip, okay? So just push it down and now it's an NLA clip. But notice that I'm animating after frame 883. What happened is that it has taken the entire track from 0 to 883 and it's adding it complete. So I don't need that to work like that. So what I need to do is to enter and edit that clip, and because of that I need to right select it. Now it's selected. Then press tab. You're going to enter into edit mode to edit the NLA clip. And inside, I'm going to delete any previous keyframes from 0 to 882, and then I'm going to clean out this. So you can see it right here. It's starting on frame 1, but right now I'm telling it to start on frame 883 and finish on 898. And I can see my clip now with the correct duration. Now, that was one solution. You can also enter the clip and delete everything back there, but I'm going to do it this way. Start the frame and end frame. So I see my clip right here. Now I need to extend it, so I'm going to duplicate it. Therefore, I'm going to tell it to scale it 15 times. And now my clip is looping 15 times. I'm going to rename this track running, and I'm going to set my running track right here. So I have my character walking, and then I'm gonna have my character start to run. In this intersection, I need around 5 frames to blend between them both. So let's mix the weight. Don't forget, you need to set your properties of the NLA clip into add. Blending mode add. Otherwise, they will not blend. Notice how the feet are jumping. So let's go into the blending mode where it says blend in and blend out. In my case, my clip is going to start here, so I'm going to blend in for 5 frames. And you can notice the ramp right here. It's almost gray color, but you can notice the ramp. And also you can notice the influence down here on the dope sheet. And whenever a track is, an NLA track is inside a dope sheet, you're going to see the NLA clips inside that track on the dope sheet, of course. And now you can see the character is walking and then suddenly blends the action into the running clip. This is fantastic. This is the purpose of the entire workflow here on the NLA. And you don't get any animation destroyed just because this little factor of the add instead of replace. Now if you don't do that, then the green clip will totally replace whatever action is going upwards or downwards from that clip. Either keyframe animation or NLA clips. So now you can see right here that I'm going to set it back into 0, and I'm going to switch back into my left select option so I can select any other elements. And now that we have a clip, now we're going to work into a keyframe animation from the dope sheet into the NLA editor. Don't forget that the dope sheet and the node graph are going to send whatever its keyframe there into the top track of the NLA editor. This is what you see right here. So let's start. And then once you animate anything, you're going to see those yellow circles in that track. That means it's containing keyframe animation. So let's start working with that. And here you can see again the NLA clip being part of that dope sheet. Alright, let's work in this character. I'm going to be accelerating a little bit. I'm going to be placing some keyframes on the rotation of the hands. And there you can see that if you have your clip onto replacing, anything above, like your just recent animated keyframes, will be deleted. So right now I'm going to place this back somewhere around here. And then I'm going to switch again the blending action into add, addition. I want the frames to be added. Let's take care of all of those previous keyframes that we are not interested in having inside our running clip. I just selected the NLA clip for the run, and then I'm deleting everything that was previously, that is from frame 1 to frame 882. And once your clip is set back to add, then everything above and everything down your clip will be added onto your current animation, and this is exactly the behavior that we expect. Perfect. I can see my dope sheet, or rather my graph editor, keyframes playing, and also my character is walking. Fantastic. To the left is how the original icons are on Blender 279, and to the right is how I would like you to imagine them. Play back to reproduce the clip. So if you mute the NLA tracks, then the only topmost track will play in the NLA timeline, either the dope sheet, action, or the graph editor. Also, if you block them, then you cannot move them or edit them. Okay, so I'm going to start animating this character, setting some more keyframes. I wanted to do this in a normal, regular speed so you can see it. I'm setting keyframes, more keyframes here, initial keyframes also here for rotation only. And now I'm going to accelerate this a little bit. More keyframes on the finger. I'm going to move her hand. I'm going to move her other hand, shoulder, elbow, purse, hair, fingernails. Well, actually not the fingernails, but the fingers. And then I'm going to correct some of the curves right here. Fantastic. And then we have this animation. This took me around 20 minutes to create. So we have our keyframe animation. And what is going on with our underlying NLA track? Is not playing back. Well, remember that speaker button has to be turned on. Now I'm going to push my keyframe animation into an NLA clip, and then I'm going to set it into the add mode. Fantastic. Right there. It's moving, but it's not moving correctly. Why is this? The problem lies because we have this NLA track start and not the other ones. So the feet are stopped. They are not walking. So unselect everything. And now play back. Oh yes, this is exactly it. This is exactly what we expect. Don't forget, if you have a mute track, then you will not see it. If you have an unmuted track on the NLA editor, then you can see it. Right now, she is running. Plus also, she's covering her head. I have this clip playing on top of the other, and the blending mode is set to replace. On the lower part. So don't forget, the blending mode should always be on add. This is why we didn't see the first animation the first time. Okay, you can also rename the tracks. We already covered this in the first section of this video. So do it. Give it a name that correctly identifies the track and the clip. I'm gonna star this, so that means that this will only play back on the timeline. I'm trying to edit this clip and I can't. Don't forget, you need to switch your user preferences. Now it's selected. And now I'm going to press tab and I can see all the keyframes up there immediately. So in case you have created your clip and you still need to manipulate it or change it, you can also go back, press tab, and keep entering any other keyframes. This is fantastic. This is what we expected. To create a base layer, in our case, she was walking. Then we created a second clip, then she was running. And then we created a third clip where she was protecting her head, or rather touching her head. And we also added it into the NLA editor. And right now you see my edited NLA track in blue. Your color may change. So when you're done, just press tab again, and then you go out of that mode. It's exactly like when you're editing groups on the shader editor actually. Alright, none is selected, so now I can see all the clips playing back on the NLA editor. The NLA editor dominates everything else once you come in here to add your animations. Don't forget about that. You don't go to the graph editor, you don't go to the timeline editor, the general timeline, you don't go to the dope sheet, no, not anymore. Whenever you're using the NLA editor is the master. And that is how your animation is going to play. Alright, let's recap. Into the NLA, testing the NLA clips. Now we're going to see a real world case where I was producing this animation for a client, and this will be extended on my conference now on the month of May. That's why you saw everything I was going to be covering at the beginning of the video, but not exactly on this video, because I plan to keep on uploading the rest of the cases so you can know what I did here and there. So not everything is going to be covered on this video, but I hope you subscribe and that this picks up your interest to see how to use Blender on a real world environment action creation for an anime. In this case, our character, like we saw previously, was walking and holding her head. Basically, she was like running away from these silhouette people, and we wanted to manipulate the cameras. And that's an interesting part of this project because the cameras play a real, how do you call this, cutscene scene directly. This is a very good technique that you can do on Blender, so that when you send the render, every camera plays along a scene. Now, don't forget to unselect all your NLA clips whenever you're working. You already saw a recap on that. I want you to pause the previous graphics and that you can take a really nice look at what they say, because this video is kind of a little bit long. We're over 28 minutes now. And don't forget that if you mute your NLA channels, then you will not have playback, although you will have playback for your keyframe animation. So in case that you need to check quickly while you're on the NLA editor, just mute the channels and then your keyframe animation will play back normally. So once you finish your animation, your keyframe animation, you can push in to the NLA editor. And right here you're going to have a icon that will identify that your action is being sent to the NLA editor. And here I'm just showing you more of the process, some of the curves that I was using, sometimes stepped, sometimes splined, for the character to react and move, a little bit of movement on the hair. And here I have the camera. The camera was keyframe as well. And it was a very crucial part on this short animated movie, which I'll post the link later when I finish editing my director's cut, so you can see what this was representing. Here we briefly saw the compositor and also the files that were going to be written into an external EXR layered file, and I separated a beauty pass, a shadow pass, an object ID, a flat colors, the normals, but not Blender's normals, but rather the ones that I really needed for this to work outside on After Effects. And you can also see that I created a particle system right here. It's a complete production. Actually, this video is around 6 to 8 hours long, so I'm still editing some of the parts. But you can see right now on this current video that you're watching, it's around 32 minutes. You can see all of the huge things that are necessary for your production inside Blender to be rendered out in complete awesome passes for each individual layers or the characters, and then be composed here on After Effects. As you can see right here, I used that image sequence, projected it into a dome over the animation, and then I had the particles exploding inside Blender environment and also the dome projecting that firework animation, so I could have something to fill the sky without using more particle interactions. Because for each particle element, for each firework, I had to create 2 different particle systems, and this is being economic because in reality fireworks will have around 3 or 4 particle systems in each explosion. So this case was a real production scenario, and I'm really satisfied with the results. Here I'm showing you how I did integrate all of those passes back into After Effects. Here's the last part. This is why it looks very colorful, but in reality this was color graded, what's integrated to some other pass elements. And of course here I'm just showing you how many different passes I got for the main character and also for the background. As you can see back there, the fireworks are already exploding, and this was a very nice 360 experience. Therefore, I would recommend you that you can check this clip once I upload it. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also hit the bell button so you can get notifications on when this is going to be ready. My name is Pierre Schiller, and I want to thank you very much for watching this clip showing you many different aspects on the production of this 3D anime episode. Thank you very much.